Alright guys, so for today's video, I'll be giving you some information on champion points and consumables and then giving my thoughts after the info dump. And by the way, I'm reading a script because I really wanted to write this out to make sure it was the best professional video I could give you guys. So if I'm not looking at the camera, you guys are just going to have to bear with me a little bit here, alright? I'm not looking directly at you guys right now. So champion points are a new system that are coming to Marvel's Avengers on Tuesday with patch 1.7. Now, the idea of champion points and the whole system around it is to give players the opportunity to explore post level 50 progression and customize the way that players want to play their favorite character. I would closely relate this system to Diablo 3's Paragon system or the Marvel Heroes Infinity Zone systems. The idea is that you'll further be able to buff the stats that you guys want to buff in order to make the character play to the style that you want them to play, whether it's more damage or tankier or so on and so forth. The idea is that it can either be a mile wide and an inch deep or a mile deep and an inch wide. Essentially, the idea is to allow you freedom to make those choices. How this works is that no XP earned retroactively to the system will be counted towards your champion point level. This will mean that you will need to earn fresh XP once this system goes live. Every time you level up, you'll be given a champion point, which will be able to slot into 4 categories, which are called combat, tactical, utility, and defensive boosts. Inside each of these categories will be stat boosts. So for example, in combat, you'll have, for example, melee, ranged, and critical attack damage, for example. Every time you level up a stat boost within melee, the cost increases. So for an example of this, melee 1 will cost 1 point, and then for melee 2, it'll be 2 points. For melee 3, it'll be 4 points, etc. until you get to 16 points. So that's 5 levels. It's designed to make you grind if you want to get to the max stat buff of that group. The idea is that, you want to invest time to really make your guy do a lot of damage or to have a lot of health. The idea is that this is a time investment and that the XP you earned is kind of, you feel like your time is valued in that sense. So there are 372 champions points needed to max out the entire page. They did say that it's possible to max out the whole page, but the time investment needed would be very, you need a lot of time to do it. They never gave like an exact time frame though, so it's unsure of how long it would take to get every single one. So one of the things that is not coming with a system like this usually comes with a respec system. They did say that no respec system is coming with this on launch, but they wanted feedback on this. But to me, I felt like this should have been a no-brainer, and it's unfortunate that they're launching a system like this without respec, and I'll talk about why a little bit later. So obviously this means that if you use a skill point, it's used, it's not coming back, and to be very careful with the choices you make because you don't want to, dump in a point somewhere that really isn't going to benefit you in any sort of way. So let's talk consumables. So they are coming to the game. There is going to be one launching on Thursday. This is called the Heroes Catalyst. It is the first of what could be many consumables coming to the game. They never gave details on other consumables, so we're just going to focus on this one today. So this one is a 50% XP boost for 3 days. The boost is in real time, which means once you activate the boost, it's going. It's not going to stop no matter if you log off or not. So the idea is to use it when you have some time to sit down and play the game. It is also account wide, which means you can freely swap between characters while it is active, and those characters will get the XP. It is also stackable with the quick match and multiplayer XP bonuses that you get, so you can pop that and then go into quick match and you will get the bonus XP from them stacking. Now, there's some things they did say about this. So they did say that this will be free every week. So it is a free giveaway every week. I believe it'll be on reset day. So that's Thursday. And that they're finding opportunities for us to earn it in game alongside the free one that they give away. Now, with the information out of the way, let's get into some thoughts on this and everything going on with these two things. So the Champions Point system is good. I like the idea behind making us customize our characters with different stats in order to fully flesh out the playstyle that we want to use personally. The problem that I see is that without a respec system, you're essentially locking yourself behind a choice that you may want to switch out in the future. Basically, what's happening is that regardless of how you switch up your character, whether that's with different skills or different gear, you're essentially locking your stat boosts into whatever, right? So this means like right now, a lot of people run very damage-oriented builds, right? But for OLTs, for example, you may want to run something a little tankier, something that can, sustain a little more damage. So because of that, do you spec for your damage build right now, or do you spec for your defense and your tankier build in the future? You have to decide that. With the time investment that you're making, you can only really make one of those choices. And with that being said, you're also only able to make that choice with one character depending on your time investment with the game. For a game that has multiple characters and multiple choices within that, you're really locked in to one character or maybe one or two characters, which means if you're someone who tries to play a lot of characters all the time, you're essentially you're going to fall behind other characters or other players faster than you would if you just played one or two. So I wonder if we'll see a problem now with one-shot builds being amplified by these stat boosts or having their weaknesses, which could be in defense, made up for these boosts, right? They've talked so much about kind of, getting away from the one-shot builds, for example. Now, with them implementing a system like this, are they not amplifying those characters in a way that allows them to do more damage, or to now have the kind of one-shot builds through the gear pieces that they are, and now those stat boosts, which allow them to kind of make up in other areas? Because of that, I wonder how they're planning to take away from one-shot builds, whether it's in new boss mechanics or new mission mechanics, which will allow them to kind of separate the insane damage that some players do from killing the boss in one go. So, I mean, that's just one of the things that I'll have to see how it goes in the future, right? You're essentially powering up a bunch of characters that you kind of didn't want to power up in certain situations. And because of that, it's like putting Super Saiyan God Goku against Krillin. And then you're trying to bring Super Saiyan God Goku back to Super Saiyan, but now you're saying, okay, Super Saiyan God Goku, go hit a Master Ultra Instinct and have fun with that. It's like, because of that, I wonder where things are going to stand moving forward with content, because at this point, how long it takes from now until the first OLT, players could actually be pretty okay depending on how much grinding you do for that. So with that being said, that's one of my first issues with this system overall. Okay, so let's dive now into XP boosts. So most of you probably seen the video where I said XP boosts and shouldn't be in the game, and I was wearing my heart on my sleeve, for that whole video. And because of that, I'm not really going to mince words, because, ultimately I didn't mince words there, so why would I mince words here, right? I'll just try to be a little more contained with my feelings. I think nerfing XP a few months ago under the guise of having players learn the characters and the skills is fine to me, but this feels like a contradiction to that very statement. Masteries and specialties are at least interchangeable with no cost to them except for the time spent, which means players aren't actually committed to them for a long period of time. If they don't like it, ultimately, once they have that unlocked, they're able to swap around freely and learn at their own pace. There's nothing that is keeping these players locked into these choices, and ultimately, players have the freedom to move different masteries around and specialties around and really experiment with their characters in ways that make them feel like their own. In similar vein, gear pieces are swappable as well. You don't like a certain gear piece, you want to find something better, you're free to do that at your own pace, subject to RNG, but ultimately the idea is that you're never really locked into anything you really want to do. You can change your character up to certain levels or certain degrees, right, based on the skill points and specialties and masteries. You're able to swap your gear based on, you going and collecting, those gear pieces from different missions. But with Champions points, you're locked in to basically the choice you make at the time. This is totally contradictory to the two first systems, and because of that, we're going to have to really dive deep to see what's going on with the reasoning. So they did say that XP was nerfed in order to allow players to learn at a pace that Crystal Dynamics felt was a comfortable spot for these players. With now consumables being introduced alongside Champions points, they're actually speeding up player progression and then locking people into permanent choices, which gives them less flexibility to experiment, to find out what works for them, and ultimately to learn the systems and both the drawbacks and the benefits of it. To me, this is a huge mistake. The counter argument to this would obviously be that players at level 50 probably know their characters more than people just coming into the game, which ultimately is true. That should be true in most cases. But I just wonder if you're concerned about bringing players up to speed, which is something they talked about, and how they're going to use consumables to bring players up to speed. Why would you just nerf XP in the first place unless consumables were always in the plan? I understand when they nerfed XP, they took a lot of heat over the nerfing of XP, and I'm not talking from in the community, I'm talking from out of the community as well. There was a lot of pieces written up from different media sources kind of attacking them. But I wonder, why not just buff XP again? You can still increase the curve of Champions points if you want to make sure that is, something players really have to put a time investment to. But ultimately, you're basically saying, we're going to give you a way to kind of negate everything we said. But ultimately, why would you do that in the first place? Unless they lock new players out of receiving XP boosts, what's to stop a new player from jumping right into the initiative, grabbing your free weekly booster and then just going through the game that way in the initiative or however else that this booster works in. They're basically going against everything that Crystal Dynamics said to us months ago about nerfing XP by introducing this XP booster unless they lock new players out of this. If they lock new players out of this, okay, sure. But ultimately, if a new player can just buy the game, go into the initiative, and basically just get their XP booster, what's the difference between before you nerfed XP and now? You're basically just allowing players to do that anyways, so why not just buff XP again? So, why have boosts in general? Well, during the meeting, they kept reiterating that they were giving these away and that we're looking for players to have opportunities to earn these. To me, it wasn't the reassurance that I wanted when it came to these never being sold as microtransactions in the future. What they said was they wanted players to be able to catch up, and with the introduction of other consumables in the future, I just wonder if there wasn't a bit of wordplay there that was meant to dodge the question entirely, right? Once again, why nerf XP if you're going to introduce a consumable to buff XP, right? It really seems counterproductive to the point you were trying to make if you give players catch-up mechanics that ultimately you thought were stalling them and their ability to learn in the game. Now I'm starting to wonder if what they said to us months ago was kind of just, a way to get out of the jam that they were in. So these XPs, yes, they're earnable and they're free weekly giveaways. Yes. But for how long? They never said for how long. What are the plans for the other consumables, right? They did say that this consumable inventory page will scroll. This is a scrolling page, which means whether it's with the quantity of each individual style of boost, whether that's different levels of XP boost or gear percentage fine boost or damage boost or defense boost, it does seem like there is going to be multiple consumables coming with the idea that these are helping players catch up when they're new to the game. All these questions and more when it comes to consumables, I would really love for them to sit down and kind of give details on their whole idea of consumables in general. What is the goal behind them? Why are you interested in consumables? What more can we expect from consumables? Will these ever be microtransactions in the future? Whether that's a month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year from now. What is the goal behind consumables? Is it to make money? Is it just to catch up players that are new to the game? Is there, why didn't you look at buffing XP then, right? I just feel like what they're doing isn't the way to go about it. I really, really, really don't know how else to explain this. I don't like that they nerfed XP and now they're introducing consumables and they did a little bit of wordplay there to dance around it. To me, it feels like there is a plan in motion in the future. I could be wrong, but to me, it feels like there is something else going on here. And because of that, I just may not like where this is going. Granted, I could be wrong, but I just wonder if there's something more at play here. And granted, I've said before that my take on XP is very extreme, all things considered. I know some of you may sit here and say, why does any of this matter? And ultimately, you may actually be right. This ultimately doesn't matter, Maybe this is actually them just wanting to catch players up to, older players. But ultimately, if you don't care about progression for something that's permanent to your choices, why do you care about progression for something that is swappable and learnable at your own pace, for example, right? So with that being said, I just wonder what is going on with these consumables and why they're introducing them now when ultimately months ago they wanted to nerf XP. I wonder at what point are we not getting the full picture of the things that they say to us until months down the line where we have to connect the dots and kind of gap that bridge ourselves. So with that being said, obviously, I would like to see them be a little more transparent on consumables in the future. What more consumables can we expect? Can we ever expect these to be in the shop? Is this something that they are going to plan on selling? Boosts alongside, different things like different packages of boosts, different varieties of boosts, right? If that is something that they're planning to sell, I would like them to be very upfront with that. If this is something that they're just kind of introducing within the game itself, and this is something that you get alongside a drop from the cargo bot, for example, or this is something you get from, completing the campaign, you get like maybe a full week boost, for example. I mean, I see where they're going with that, right? You complete the campaign as a new player, you get a full week of XP boost. Sure, I get it. But if this is something they're just slowly kind of, inching into the water on until, eventually you're neck deep and you're surrounded by all these different boosts and there's people paying for boosts and I just wonder how this is all coming about, right? So let me know what you guys think down below. Obviously, I know it's a lot to take in pretty quickly. I know there's a lot of information coming out. So I would love to hear what you guys think on this. And I look forward to talking to you guys about it on tomorrow, actually. And I look forward to kind of hearing what everyone has to say about this, because ultimately, at the end of the day, something like this should honestly be like, voice your criticisms, concerns, your thoughts. There's a lot here that I really hope that you guys digest and then really come at it with strong thoughts of where this goes wrong or where this goes right, ultimately. And we'll do a lot of talking about it tomorrow. So with that being said, guys, enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and I will see you guys very soon. Later.